Sure, these screens are minimized. There we go. And that is my phone telling me I'm streaming live. Supposedly, I will be able to watch the stream here from within this tool I have. And I'll be able to answer questions as they come up. But the topic, hang on. First off, I want to say thank you for joining live, if you're watching this live. If you're not watching this live, then thank you for watching the replay. I need more caffeine. That's what I need. So this week, normally I would be in Vegas for Inspire and Ready. So Inspire is the Microsoft's internal conference for Inspire is a conference. Wow, it's live. It's live video. No hiding with editing. Let me start that over. Let's see. Mostly I'm doing this live stream to test out kind of some equipment changes I made, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But normally I would be in Las Vegas for Inspire and Ready. So if you're not familiar, Inspire and Ready are two conferences that usually happen at the same place at the same time. Inspire used to be known as the Worldwide Partner Conference, and it's basically for organizations that have joined Microsoft. Not really joined Microsoft, but organizations that work with Microsoft, and they're part of the official partner ecosystem. And they have a big conference every year, and it's now called Inspire. And then at the same time, because it's efficient to have the folks at Microsoft kind of there for meetings and stuff like that, there's Ready. Ready happens twice a year. There's kind of the winter Ready and then summer Ready. And last few years, they've been in Vegas. However, with the pandemic, it's all been virtual. And it's been an interesting experience because you can kind of session hop. You don't have to deal with Vegas in the middle of July, which I assure you is quite hot. It is a dry heat, but it is still heat. The other thing I was going to say was it's been interesting to see, and it's cool because some of the sessions are traditional kind of talking over a presentation remotely, but there was one session I saw. Most of what happens at Ready has to stay at Ready, and it was an interesting talk because the presenter was able to go to different places and with a pre-recorded talk, and I thought that was really cool. I think it leverages the advantages of the virtual world that we're in for now. It wasn't just kind of like you're replicating a real live event and you're replicating it online. What fascinated me about that was what sorts of new creative options do you have if an event is virtual. This is something I got into actually on a podcast. Dr. Mark Wade runs the Virtual Summits podcast, and Andy and I last summer, if you didn't know, we had a virtual summit before it was cool. And what was fascinating about it was kind of I had that thought experiment of you're not limited by time and space. And I know at the end of this month I'll be helping Tim and Prashant, who are stalwarts in our local community here in Northern Virginia, DC, and I'll be speaking at 2 sessions at the Virtual AI Summit. And we have, I don't know, it's either going to be 7 or 8 different tracks. Now, normally in physical space, we couldn't possibly do that. That was just not possible. But virtual really doesn't matter. So I'm encouraged by kind of some of the innovation that we're seeing in the virtual conference space, and the creativity people are showing, right? It's not just a typical conference and here I'm going to talk for 45 minutes, and you could do more creative stuff like this here. Here's a cool animation I put together for this, but I didn't take into account the color in the background. and little creative stuff like that. And I don't know. I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged by the spirit of innovation we're seeing here. And a lot of the stuff that's in Inspire is public. So there's a lot of innovation being highlighted there by partners. A lot of interesting stuff in terms of using AI and big data. But here is a bit of a blast from the past. While I was cleaning up the other day, and my wife and my wife found this. So if you don't know what this is, I haven't charged it up because I'm not quite sure what would happen. But basically, this was the phone to have before the iPhone. It was a smartphone, ran Windows Mobile 6, I think. There was no App Store, kids. That was not as an option here. So if you look at this, look how thick this is compared to, this is a Samsung Note 8. And if you look at it from this angle, you can see definitely much bigger screen. But what's fascinating about this, and sometimes I do miss this is the one thing I do miss, the slide-out keyboard. I've adapted to typing out long text messages and whatnot using the phone keyboard and auto-predict and stuff like that, but I don't know. There was just something about having a keyboard handy. I suppose you could hook up a Bluetooth to a phone. But that's not the only thing why I'm here. Is this came today. I'm very excited about this. So as you can see, I'm working on improving some of my streaming hardware, and I really probably should fix the ceiling, my roof there. And it's not fun. There we go. That's the view I wanted. So what I have here, I wanted to be able to set up 2 webcams. Not because you want to see my wonderful face, but I do have a whiteboard over there that I can diagram stuff on. But also, it does add for, even if you just change the angle a little bit, it does make the stream more entertaining. I mean, obviously, I'm entertaining on my own. But, and if you are leaving comments and I'm not responding to them, I'm not seeing any come through. This could be a weird restream thing. The web interface works out really well. They've been putting a lot of effort into that, but I'm using something called OBS, which essentially is a open broadcast studio, and I'm happy to talk about that. If anyone's interested, put it in the comments. I am not ignoring you to look at my phone. I am hoping to see if I have any comments on the live LinkedIn feed, because apparently I guess we're back to that again. Just checking the phone to see if there's any comments. Here's one from a few minutes ago. Mohammed Calais. I'm greeting you, bro. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you're doing all right. I hope this wonderful Thursday finds you well. So one of the things I want to do, and I think because I haven't bought a computer, last computer I bought was a Surface Book, and that was in 2016. Mostly what I do is I buy a desktop type machine, and I try to get as much time out of it as I can, and I upgrade and swap out the parts. I think only once I had to swap out the motherboard. And that's because the fan died and the chip went kablooey. But one of the things that kind of came up is if you want to have multiple camera feeds, hey, I see it here. Awesome. Woohoo. It did show up. That's weird. As soon as I showed up on the phone, it showed up. Anyway, thank you. And he's coming in from LinkedIn. I want to do more of these. I want to answer questions about data science. I have a fancy graphic where, live Q&A, but I want to schedule those in advance so people can kind of think of their questions. Also want to do another show with Andy on this because we got really good reviews on how we did that. So just trying to be innovative, getting back to that. So in order to have multiple feeds here, and this desktop is 5-6 years old. So what I got today in the mail was another USB bus. This time I got USB 3 because the USB 3 was an expensive upgrade when I bought this desktop, and it just wasn't worth it. I think the upgrade at the time was a couple $100, $125. This was $24. Obviously, you have to kind of be brave enough to open up the case, but that's something I used to do with my dad a lot. So hopefully the next time you see this, I'll be able to get another webcam in here and kind of do some interesting things with that. I do have another camera here set up, but I don't have anything I want to diagram unless you think of a question. The other thing, let's see, how long have I been streaming? I've been streaming for 10 minutes. LinkedIn prefers it if you stay streaming for 15 minutes. But it's okay. The challenge isn't getting me to talk, as my wife says, it's getting me to stop talking, which I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. So thank you, Muhammad, for that comment. Hopefully my audio is coming through okay. This is a different microphone than my big one. I could move it, but I have that set up for work type stuff. And I really do need to fix my ceiling or get a green screen, or probably both. So that's it. I'm going to install this soon and get this set up. But what's really exciting is kind of the innovation that we're seeing here. You know, if you think, and there's a reason why I brought this on. If you think this, I mean, in 2005, 2008, I mean, this was the sugar honey iced tea, as they say. But now, I mean, it's just clunky. And I think we'll look back at, you know, these devices in very much the same way. In very much the same way. So, and it's not just this, it's also data. You know, imagine, you know, what we can do with, in terms of better compute, better machine learning models. I heard a presentation today. Again, it wasn't ready, so I can't say too much about it. But it was talking about an innovative model just a couple of years ago had X number of training sets, or trying to think of how I can talk about it without giving too much away. But you know, the scope and scale of what the model has been trained on is about 20 times what it was even about 18 months ago. So it's just fascinating. So it's inspiring to me because one, you know, there's a lot of bad news in the world, right? You don't have to search very far for bad news. But in terms of good news, I mean, there's good news in the sense that innovation is still happening in spite of, in fact, probably because of the pandemic. I really like the keynote where it was, you know, he started off on a boat and he went around different places in Seattle and, you know, Microsoft campus. And that's something you can't really do in a live type of environment. Now, not saying that having a live kind of interaction like this is going to go away, but I like having the option. And that's something that virtual summits give you. In fact, I'd actually like to have Dr. Mark Wade here kind of reciprocate his invitation on the podcast. I was on his podcast. It'd be great to have him here. And he can kind of talk about, you know, what virtual summits mean. He's been in it for a couple of years now, way before it was cool. Andy and I got into it about 4 months before it was cool. But he's been on it much, much longer. And I can see actually the timer here. So if you kind of want to know behind the scenes of what's going on here, anyone can stream. Streaming has really become down. The cost of doing this has really come down to very low. With LinkedIn Live, you have to apply and stuff like that. But in short of it, I mean, if you want to stream to Facebook, you know, Twitch, YouTube, I mean, this is technology is very approachable. All you really need is a webcam, and you know, the patience to go through to learn OBS. When I was doing a live streaming in a previous role at Microsoft for events that the government affairs department put on, I mean, I had a TriCaster. TriCaster is, you know, the cheapest TriCaster I think available is about $4,000 or $5,000. The unit I had was, I think, about the $8,000 or $9,000 model, and it was cool and all, but I mean, it was definitely had a learning curve. But now, I mean, with a webcam and OBS, you know, you can do all sorts of things, fancy graphics. I have the little chat window there. I think, again, this did not change the world, but these devices did. Now, why is that? Now, part of that is just the innovation got more practical. This was geared for professionals, right? Because you had to afford it, and you had to really want to use it. But this here They made the user interface simpler. And I think the same thing is the same with streaming. Live streaming used to be a big deal to set up. We're talking hundreds of dollars, about thousands of dollars of equipment, if we're being honest, right? When I left that job, I no longer had access to that equipment. So I kind of slowly started building, and you know, given that we're 4 or 5 years on, slowly is the key word there, is building out kind of a poor man's TriCaster. How do you do that? So go to YouTube, obviously not now, but there's a guy named Nick Nimmin, and just search how to learn OBS, and it's a free software. There's pay versions. I really like Restream because I'm able to bounce around to different services. Yeah. All right, getting comments coming in. That's awesome. Trying to really okay. So from Lathan Harper, thanks for joining and watching this live. You're trying to dial your setup in. Cool. I have to check out Bluff Titler, motion graphics animation. So if you don't know, you haven't heard the term MoGraph or motion graphics, it's something like this here. You see that little fancy graphic there. I use a tool called Videos, which if you see my LinkedIn feed, you'll see I always have a lot of crazy type of animations and stuff that I put and make kind of data science focused. So yes, Mohammed, yes, this is an old phone that I just found. This was the Singular, I think 8125? Yeah, 8125. Oh yeah, I love this thing. And this thing had a little selfie mirror, right? So you could take pictures with it. This before we even called it selfie. And if you look there, Windows Mobile, and it's the old Windows logo. I'm going to try to power this up. Let me know if you want me to have that. I also found my, you're not going to believe this, Apple Newton. Yes, you heard right. I had an Apple Newton. So if you know me from kind of my MVP days, I was a tablet PC MVP working on handwriting recognition systems and stuff like that. Definitely. Oh, awesome. Outer Space Software, Bluff Titler. Cool. Let's see if we can get this working to where I can share my browser, share my screen at this time. Let's see. It might be kind of disruptive to the feed, but so this is the advantage. So normally I do it on the other computer using the browser interface. Yeah, browser interface is a lot of stuff kind of pre-set up. Now I can eventually get to this in this setup here, but OBS you kind of have to set up the different scenes and stuff like that. So for instance, let's see, this is a different scene than this is a different scene. So that sort of thing. I also have another gadget, which is really cool. If you want to get into streaming, highly recommend this. It's called the Stream Deck, and you can kind of pre-program it with macros and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of people use it to like just do macros in their desktop, so it just becomes a shortcut key type system. So I definitely need to play with that more. But yeah, thanks, Lathan. I'll definitely be checking that out. Yeah, you know what I also have? I've also kept, because there's a lot of numbers on there from way back in the day, which I don't know why I kept it. My old Motorola Nextel phone, the type with a push to talk. So if you can believe that, I love that push to talk feature. It was awesome because you didn't have to call anyone. You just chirp them. My dad and I used to talk when I moved. I'd be like, hey, how are the dogs? It was always fun because it's just you just could do it. There's actually a really cool YouTube channel, and I really should set up like a desktop sharing thing, which I will. Where you can, there's a guy, I think it's called Mr. Mobile, but he basically kind of, talks about how when phones were fun, and I mean, there's some truth to that, the flip phones. Maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's, there's an actual thing in there, but it was nice to just have the flip phone. The screen was always protected. That was a big thing. I can't tell you how many times I've cracked this screen. Once a car drove over my old flip phone and it broke, but that's a long story. So I am super excited. I actually have to go run some errands, but I just want to give a big shout out to Mohammed and Lathan. Thanks for joining. If you like this, comment, share, all that sort of thing. If you're watching me on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Definitely want to do more of this. Hit me up in the comments if you want me to show this bad boy kind of booting up and charging. That would be fun to do. If back in the day, I think this even has a removable battery, so yeah. Remember when phones did this? You had the removable battery. Yep, and there's the SIM card slot right there. No fancy pink thing to poke it with. I wonder if I even put my SIM card in there, would it work? I don't know. Excuse me. Singular is now AT&T, I believe. So that'd be worth trying. But this is cool. So this had a little shortcut button for mail, browser. There's the Internet Explorer logo. I don't know if people remember Internet Explorer. Interesting. Well, I'm definitely going to play around with this. There's actually she's not a YouTuber, but she has a show on Channel 9. Channel9.mstn.com is a Microsoft website with videos. It's called Retro Tech, and she does a whole bunch of stuff with Retro Tech. She's had a couple of shows. I don't know what the publishing schedule is. Access to the studio is, because of the pandemic, somewhat limited. But sure, she's going to do more shows. Maybe I can even have her on here on a live stream. But yeah, Windows all the way back to the Motorola flip phone. I remember I had I didn't have a StarTAC. I wasn't cool enough to have a StarTAC, but I did have the original one with the phone, the bottom part like flipped out. That was fun. I remember making one of my first phone calls. I was like, hey! If you listen to the 3-year extravaganza or retrospective Andy and I did a few weeks ago for the podcast, I was talking about climbing Mount Royal in Montreal, and one of the things I did was I called one of my friends who wasn't on the trip with us, and was like, hey, what's up the mountain? On my cell phone, which was expensive because it was Canada, and airtime was a thing back then. And yeah, when I got the bill, I was like, but you know, spring break, honestly, as far as spring break, we went to Montreal. If you don't know the whole story, we went to Montreal for spring break because it was cheap. Montreal is probably the last place people go for spring break because it's still winter there. In fact, a blizzard had come through like 2 days before we got there. So our spring break photos were like us building snowmen, sliding down snow hills and stuff like that. I had a blast. I prefer that type of weather anyway. But yeah, spring break goes in terms of regrets. Having a $15 bill for one 2-minute phone call is not among the worst of it. But yeah, thank you, Mohammed. And anytime, man. If you have a topic you want me to talk about, data science wise, just let me know. You know, I love doing these live streams, and I want to do more of them. And I cleaned up my desk because I knew I was going to be on camera, so I don't have the books like right off the screen. But you know, I'd be willing to do it. And you're watching live from Ankara, Turkey. Awesome. Hope. So it's probably sometime late in the evening for you. So you have a great night. I got to sign off because I got some errands to run and kids to pick up from different places. And you have a great day. And I'm going to stop streaming. And I'm coughing, but don't worry about me. It's not COVID. It's allergies.